are there specific allegations that this company did something wrong, or is it simply the appearance of impropriety?
Well, look, I was actually chairman of the Board of Elections in the city, and when you're in that position, you're charged with being not just above board by the law, but you're charged with giving people confidence in the voting process. So the idea that in August, Special Services was paid by Congressman Carnahan, his campaign, and then a month and a half later, 2 months later, is, so we don't know, but that's one of the things that we expect to find out. I mean, it doesn't pass the sort of good practices test for sure, but it also leads to other questions.
Are you simply alleging that just because they both hired the same security firm, that somehow that's impropriety of some kind?
No, I'm simply alleging that when a campaign pays for someone to work for them, that they have a relationship and a fiduciary duty and other things. They just work together. And then for the election board, again, 4 days before the election, to go out and hire the same firm doesn't make sense. I mean, this is, again, the election authority is required to both have integrity as well as the appearance of integrity, and we need to know why.
What would they have done that would have been improper?
My understanding is they were hired to secure the election, so we should find out. When I was at the election board, we had various roles for people bringing in ballots, supervising the security of the ballots, all those kinds of things. I think those are open questions. Again, that's why we need an investigation to find out what's going on.
The congressman was asked about that earlier today. He said that you had hired that same firm when you were in the Human Rights Office at the Archdiocese.
The congressman has a real long-standing interest in my time with the Archdiocese, but I have no idea what that would refer to. And when I was at the Board of Elections, you'd be very careful. I'm not impugning the integrity of any one person or other. I'm saying when the integrity of the election is at stake, and when we see problems, your job as an election authority is to make sure that there's not the appearance or actual. But remember, this is a payment to a federal campaign in August, and then later hired by the same authority that's counting the votes. Doesn't matter who he works for. I know the guy who runs Special Services is a guy around town who I know very well, and he's a nice enough fellow, but that doesn't mean that it's an appropriate relationship for our election authority.
Are you saying you did not hire them?
I don't recall that. With the Archdiocese, I don't know what we would have hired him for. I don't recall that. But
the Archdiocese says that the Human Rights Office did in October.
For the Pope's visit. For
the Pope's visit? Yeah, in October of what year? I mean.
99.
Yeah, this would have been. When the Pope came to St. Louis. When the Pope came to St. Louis, we hired just about everybody in town. The Archdiocese did, but I don't know that the Human Rights Office contracted with him. That would be a surprise to me. That was Monsignor Sticker's job, so I don't know why that would be. But it doesn't matter. The point is what's going on at the election yesterday.
And you said the numbers were they were impossible. The numbers they came up with last night in that dump. What kind of numbers are you talking about?
Well, I mean, we went with the race was razor thin. I think we were within a few hundred, and then when we saw about 4,000 votes or 5,000 votes come in the city, and similar in the county. So again, one of the things we know at my experience with the election is what you need to do is have a thorough investigation of what happened and when, especially with the other irregularities that are out there.
Are you saying city and county, you think?
The county had a similar late dump. I don't know as much about where that came from in terms of the votes coming in, but I know there was the same kind of experience. Late in the evening, you saw a big shift in the polls. And this is an old problem in St. Louis City and County that we thought we'd gotten past, where some polls precincts appear to be coming in later that have a dramatic effect.
And you never hired Special Services when you were at the board?
I don't know. I don't think so at the Board of Election, no. Again, Special Services, as everybody in the room probably knows, is all over town. They do a lot of things. But the point is, when you're contracted by a federal campaign and then you're running the election, this is the conflict that matters, and you're securing ballots. It doesn't even pass the basic smell test.
Where were the provisional ballots left at the polling place?
We have heard reports from people. We'll get them as soon as we get as many as we can out. There were reports of them being left on tables. They're supposed to be secured in envelopes, left on stacks and tables. And you see what happens in an election, usually provisional ballots are fairly uncommon. You don't have that problem because you can call the Secretary of State and get the database up. So in this case, because there was no database, a lot more people were voting provisional ballots, and the workers there probably, my experiences, didn't know quite what to do with them. So again, the question of whether ballots are secured or not is a big part of why was the database. We asked the Secretary of State to maintain the database for 2 big events a year, well, a few more, but only a few times, and the idea that it wouldn't be kept up brings serious questions into play.
The Secretary of State's office yesterday and the City and County Board of Election Commissioners said say that they had paper copies of all voters. So even though they didn't have the database.
Yeah, it's not the reports that people are saying. It's not what people are saying. When the voters are saying they got there and they couldn't, it wasn't being processed and they weren't able to handle it. So we'll find out.
Are any of those voters here today?
I don't know. I'm not sure who's here, but
Is
we'll
your-
certainly, as soon as we can find them, we'll be getting them out and we'll be happy to pass them on.
Is your campaign prepared to file a lawsuit on your own if need be? Because you're not within the 1% range of like an automatic recount, so there doesn't appear to be.
Our campaign from the beginning, if you look at our campaign, what we've said is we're gonna work with the people. We're gonna fight for the values and things that they care about. Right now, we're concerned about the fact that there are major problems. At least three things that came up, and we want to hear more about it. So as we hear more about it, we certainly think that every option to protect the integrity of the voters and the process should be examined. But right now, beyond trying to make sure that voters are getting their concerns processed and we're finding out what's going on, right now down at the city as well as in the county, they're checking provisional ballots. They're going back to answer the questions, and I think that's an important starting point.
To back up a little bit,